chapter 7 of Ecclesiastes. And I guess I should go back to the last things that we talked about last week. Two things. The first verse there, don't take to heart everything people say. That's some really good advice for us. You have a lot better peace of mind if you are able to let water go off, let it go off like water off a duck's back. And then the last part of it, he says, I've tried it. I tested it to try to see what by wisdom what it's all about. And he said, I'll be wise, but it was far from me. That which is far off and exceedingly deep, who can find it out? There's a lot of stuff that's far off from us in life under the sun as human beings. We can't find it out because God never intended it to be found out. He tells us everything we need to know, but there's a ton of stuff that we don't know, and it's futile to try to figure it all out. What we need to do is just trust in God, listen to what he does tell us, and put that into practice in our life. So then he says next, I applied my heart to know, to search and seek out wisdom and the reason of things, to know the wickedness of folly, even the foolishness and madness. So he's not done with this still searching, applying his heart. He's just repeating the same thing over some of this time. And then he tells us different things that he found out in this process of trying to learn about wisdom and know the difference between wickedness and righteousness and just what it's all about. And there's a lot of stuff that he's going to show us here that don't make sense, but we just have to live with it. He says, verse 26, I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, whose hands are fetters. What's a fetter?
A restriction, some kind.
Yeah, it's handcuffs or it's things that bind you to something. So whose hands are fetters, like they're like putting handcuffs on you. He who pleases God shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be trapped by her. Remember who's talking to us. Solomon had a few women in his life, didn't he?
Yes.
Like 1,000 wives, 300 concubines, and most of these women were foreigners trying to convince him to do stuff that God did not approve of. And like he says, I find it more bitter than death, having to deal with this kind of a woman whose heart is snares, nets, and fetters.
Well, in 23 though, he even says, all this I have proved by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but I was far from, it was far from.
Yeah.
Even though he was given wisdom, he didn't use it wisely.
Well, and what this part says, they really pulled him away from things. He built temples for their gods and worship places for them.
Right. And I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but us guys know that when a woman decides she wants something, it's pretty hard to avoid that. Not everyone's like that. That's a general statement, but can you imagine having 1,000 or 1,300 women trying to get you to do stuff and just persistent about it and
There's no way he could know all of them.
no, but you don't have to know all of them to know what he's saying here.
No.
But and it's talking about the woman it says whose heart is snares and nets. But I mean, it's in their
DNA.
DNA or in their core desire for them is to trap and to hang on to, there's been a lot of murders where, I mean, this has been both men and women, but the husband finds another woman, and then the first woman goes and shoots her, something like that. If I can't, or she might even shoot him. If I can't have him, nobody else can. I mean, there's different. It's not talking about all women. It's talking about the one that has that kind of heart. But he says, if you please God, you can get out of that trap. If you are seeking to please God, you'll know how to deal with that kind of situation. Solomon didn't really apply that very well at the end, as already been mentioned. He let them coerce him into building these idol temples and all this kind of stuff. And so, like he says, I find it more bitter than death. Gene?
Trying to think, but quotation, I think of Solomon, that he who finds a wife finds a good thing, and another is a good wife is more precious than rubies, or
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are what our wives make us to be, in a large sense.
yeah. And that's the same guy, Solomon, saying those things that said this. So he's not saying women are bad. He's just saying there's a certain kind of woman that is more bitter than death because they cause all kind of problems. But that last part, as I wrote in blue there, a man's character determines how he will react to temptation. When a woman tries to trap you into doing something that you shouldn't do, if you have the character, I'm going to please God, that's where my aim is, then you'll escape from that. But if you don't have that firm commitment to serve God, to please God, you're going to get trapped, and you're going to be sinning in the process. Okay, Barb.
Did Dave that many concubines? Did you?
No, he didn't have nearly so many. He had concubines, but not anywhere even close to Solomon. So anyway, he's saying, I've set my mind on figuring this stuff out. In verse 25, back up there, he says, I applied my heart to know, to search and seek out wisdom and the reason of things. Well, now he says, here's what I found out. Here's what I found, says the preacher, adding one thing to the other to find out the reason, which my soul still seeks, but I cannot find. He's already said that, right? He said it's, I've tried to do it, but it's just too much. I can't find it out. Well, so he said it again, but now he's going to say what he means this time through. One man among 1,000 I have found, but a woman among all these I have not found. Truly this only I have found, and that is that God made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. So this last verse that I just read kind of gives the meaning to the previous two. All he's saying is that to find true wisdom in somebody is really rare. You don't find that much. Maybe he says 1 in 1,000 out of men, and he's talking from his own experience. He says, I haven't even found that in a woman. This perfect true wisdom, or this no wisdom is perfect, but true wisdom. He's not saying, this is just a general statement from his own experience. All the women that he dealt with in his harem or in all of his wives, whatever you want to call it, uh, he didn't see wisdom there. But all he's trying to get across is what he says last, and that is God made man upright, but they, that is men, people, have sought out many schemes. We are constantly trying to push the limits of God's rules and what's best for us. We always seem like people always want more or different or whatever. We just always kind of pushing the limits. Any comments about this part, Gene?
Well, I've made it for 63 years, as you know, and looking back, some of the mistakes I made in different areas was because I didn't listen to them.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good point, Gene.
Yeah, well, you're different from all the rest of us, Gene.
The mistake that we-
Oh. Yeah, Gene's different from all the rest of us.
Yep.
But anyway, wisdom is where you find it, and it can be in man, it can be in woman, but ultimately it's from God. And there's only so much wisdom that human beings, life under the sun, are capable of. Remember, keep in mind the definition of wisdom. Anybody want to say what the definition of wisdom is?
Correct use of knowledge.
Okay. In a nutshell, it's the correct use of knowledge, applying knowledge in a good way, in a right way. That's what wisdom is. So wisdom is permanently bound to knowledge. The more knowledge that you have, does that mean the wiser you are? Not necessarily, but without knowledge, you can't have wisdom. And so obviously it's good to gain knowledge, to learn all that you can. And why is that? Because when you know all the facts, you can make a decent decision about stuff. If you just learn one thing and base your decision off of just one thing, you may be making the wrong decision. There may be other factors that one thing doesn't consider. So that's what we need to do to gain wisdom, is gain knowledge. But is knowledge unlimited? Life under the sun? No, it's not.
Every day.
There's things that God knows, secret things belong to God. There's things that God knows that he's never going to tell us, or at least not in life under the sun. But we can gain all the knowledge that's available and be happy with that. He's already talked about, you can't find out everything. You just have to live with it. Live in the realm that you are existing in, that is under the sun. You're a human being. We can only go so far. We can search and seek and everything, but we may not find it. And if the wisest man on earth that ever lived can't find it, what makes me think I can? I can learn as much as I can, but I can't expect to be able to know everything and have the wisdom like God has, because I don't have the knowledge that he has, nor the intelligence either way. Anyway, we're talking about life under the sun. So now he says in chapter 8, we're getting into chapter 8, who is like a wise man? And who knows the interpretation of a thing? These are kind of like rhetorical questions. There's not many of us that are truly wise in this life. We can have some wisdom, but like me, somebody might say, well, yeah, he's pretty wise, but would you call me a wise man? Maybe a wise guy, but not a wise man. I'm not up on some pedestal of wisdom like you might. I'm trying to even think of somebody that that we would truly say is a wise man that lives right now. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not sure I'd call him a wise man. I mean, he has some wisdom. Yeah. I mean, he has some wisdom. He makes some good decisions, but he also makes some bad ones. That's like everybody. So that's what he's getting at here. Who is it? There really isn't anybody that's the wise man who knows the interpretation of everything or of a thing. No, nobody does. But it says a man's wisdom makes his face shine. I could put it out to the side there. That means lit up. Makes your face lit up. If you're wise, you're making good decisions, what should your face look like? Happy. And that's the secret to life under the sun. It's to have your face shine, you have to have some wisdom. So he's not saying wisdom is bad just because you can't find it all out. He's saying wisdom is important. It makes your face light up. And then he said, and the sternness of his face is changed. Well, that word sternness literally means strength. When you are wise, when you have some wisdom, what kind of a look is on your face? It's a confident one. It's a strong look on your face. It's happy and strong if you have wisdom. Then in verse 2, he starts talking about relationship to authority, and he's going to even talk about the responsibility that the authority has. But he starts off by saying, I say, keep the king's commandment for the sake of your oath to God. Back in those days, I mean, we don't have kings now, but virtually all the time that there were ever kings, if you are a member of his country that he was king over, what did you have to do? You had to pledge your allegiance to him. You had to swear a fealty oath. I will follow you. And if you didn't, what usually happened? You'd either get killed or get excommunicated, get kicked out of the country, because I don't want anybody under me that's not going to follow my wishes as a king. And so that's the oath that he's talking about, a fealty oath. And he says, you obey the king's commandment because you said you would. You swore your loyalty to him, so you better keep it. An oath is something that is very precious to God. I mean, he takes oaths very seriously. And so he says, you keep that commandment, you obey that king, you obey the authority. And he says, do not be hasty to go from his presence. Now, what he's getting at in this place here is, if you go before a king, usually what's happening? You're asking for something. You're trying to gain something. If he says no, and you decide, well, I don't like that, I'm going to stop out of here, show that I'm unhappy with this decision, that's the kind of thing he's talking about. And don't be in a big hurry to go stomping out like that. And here's why. He says, don't take your stand for an evil thing, for he does whatever pleases him. So if you go storming out on the king, he's going to do whatever pleases him. And you storming out is not going to do any good towards getting what you want. In fact, it'll probably do the opposite. So he says, don't be hasty to go out of his presence. And he says also, don't take your stand for an evil thing. Don't side yourself in some evil plan or some endeavor of some kind. If you take your stand for that and it's not the king's will, you're going to get yourself in trouble, because the king's going to do whatever pleases him. He's the king. You don't tell me anything. I am the king. And with that in mind, he says in verse 4, where the word of a king is, there is power or authority. When the king speaks, what's supposed to happen? People listen, people do it. When I say jump, you say how high. And he said, where the word of the king is, there's authority, there's power. And who may say to him, what are you doing? You say that to king? What do you think you're doing? This is stupid. Well, you don't say that to a king. And he says, who can say that to him? That's another rhetorical question. You can't say that to a king, to the authority. We have this happening all the time, in our society, life under the sun. People don't like a rule that somebody made, and you protest in the streets and everything. Usually that doesn't have really good consequences. We've had people not recently where somebody disagreed with somebody, and next thing you know, they're being taken to court for something, maybe something totally different, but they're going to pay for bucking up against the authority. In that case, we've had so many accusations in the last few years of people, how do they word it? Where they're exercising their authority to prosecute people as punishment, so to speak. They tried to put, how many trials did they put Donald Trump through? None of which came out, but it caused him tons of problems along the way. These were the people that were in authority at the time when Trump wasn't president. Biden was in there, and they were using the Department of Justice to prosecute all this stuff, and him and his friends and that sort of thing. There's authority there, but we're going to see that you got to be careful how you use your authority as well. But in verse 5, he says, he who keeps his command, that's the king's command, will experience nothing harmful. As long as you do what the king wants, he's perfectly happy. Nothing is it's not going to be a problem. We don't have kings today, but we have authorities. As long as you obey the law, keep the law, are you going to get in trouble? No, they don't have anything. I mean, there may be people that falsely accuse you, that sort of thing, but that's not what we're talking about here. He said, you stay in line, you're going to be okay. Nothing harmful is going to happen to you. And a wise man's heart discerns both time and judgment. Remember in chapter 3 and 4, to everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. Sometimes we get impatient. Sometimes we don't really consider time. I want to know now. You take a case before a court, whatever it might be. You sue somebody sues you. You want it to get over with quick, but that's not how judgment works. It takes time, that sort of thing. A wise man's heart looks and thinks, discerns both, not just judgment, but both time and judgment. Because for every matter, there's a time and judgment. Though the misery of a man increases greatly, sometimes things don't get settled as quickly as you would like, and you're really in turmoil in your mind and your heart until whatever it is gets settled, gets figured out. Going through the process of a will when someone passes away, people, I want my judgment now. I want to, well, sometimes it takes a long time. That book that Charles Dickens wrote,
Great Expectations?
no, it's something Bleak House. That is a long book, and it is all about getting a will settled And in the end, it never gets settled. All the money has gone to the lawyers and the courts by the time it's done. And so a lot of misery those people went through trying to get that thing settled. And but there's time and judgment. You have to be wise about it. You have to discern both time and judgment. And here's why it makes you misery is because he does not know what's going to happen. Until that judgment is final, you don't know what's going to happen. So who can tell him when it'll occur? You don't know. So you can either fret about it and put yourself through a lot of misery, or you can discern both time and judgment and know, okay, these things take time. I'm just going to have to be patient and, just thinking about that. Like I said in the green over there, it's hard to wait patiently for the outcome of a matter. And it is. This is life under the sun. We've already seen how not everything is makes sense or there's not equity in everything. This is life under the sun. This is the way that it is. And there's a way to get through it. And he says it over and over again, 6 times in this book. And then a 7th time, the final answer. But you got to have patience to get through this life. No one has power over the spirit to retain the spirit. What is death? What's the definition of death?
Separation.
Separation of what? The body from the spirit, or the spirit from the body. Who has the power to decide that? Yeah, God does. I mean, you can commit suicide, but we're not talking about that. We don't have the power to decide when you're going to die, when the spirit's going to leave you. No one has the power in the day of death. We don't have that choice. We wouldn't want it if we did, probably. Anyway, we don't have that power. Then he says, there's no release from war. I crossed out that because it really is not in the Hebrew. And it kind of makes it confusing, at least to me. It's not in the other translations either. But there's no release from war, and wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it. And he's still talking about death here. What happens in war? People die. So are there people that, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go to war. But there's no release from war. When they have the draft, what happens? You go. And that's always been the case all the way through. The king says, I need every man from age 20 to 25 report. We're going to go attack this country, or we've got a country coming to attack us. We got to defend ourselves. And when the authority says you come, what happens if you don't? Yeah. Severe consequences for doing it. There's no release from that. And also in connection with death is that wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it. You can try any means you want to. Even wickedness is not going to get you out of death, is it? You can try, you see these TV shows of people, and this is just imaginary, but there's real life kind of things, but these people that are into cryogenics, where they think I'll freeze my body, and then I can, later on when they figure out a cure for my disease, they can unfreeze me and then cure me. I can live forever, that kind of thing. And then in the process, we just watched one TV show where somebody was stealing somebody else's brain or something like that. And wickedness is not going to get you out of it. You're going to die when you're going to die, and that's it. He says, all this I have seen and applied my heart to know, or to every work that's done under the sun. So I've seen all of this stuff that we've been talking about in the whole book so far. I applied my heart to every work that's done under the sun, everything. I looked at everything. And then he says, here's another one of those conclusions that comes in here. There is a time when one man rules over another to his own hurt. He's been talking about the authority that the power that the authorities have, those that rule over other people. But now he's turning his mind, or turning his thought to the ruler himself. Remember, Solomon's son is Rehoboam. He's going to become the ruler next. He says, there's a time when one man rules over another to his own hurt. Rehoboam learned that from day one when he became king, because he didn't use wisdom to make his decision on how to run the country. And so there is a time when somebody can make bad decisions and it hurts them as a leader. A leader needs to be careful how he leads. From the standpoint of the regular folks, the oppression is bad. He's talked about that. We don't like the oppression. Oppression can cause us to do things that we wouldn't normally do. But on the flip side of it, somebody that's doing the oppressing, somebody that's a leader that's making bad decisions, he's going to hurt himself in the process. People can only take so much. We've already seen that in the book of Ecclesiastes. And eventually, something's got to give, and it will give. How often have you heard of kings, even in the Bible, over and over again, kings getting assassinated, kings getting killed by a group of soldiers that want to side with the other guy? And that's because the guy wasn't ruling well at all. We need to get somebody else in here. That's the idea that he's talking about. A ruler can hurt himself if he doesn't rule properly. Then he says in verse 10, then I saw the wicked buried, who had come and gone from the place of holiness, and they were forgotten in the city where they had done so. This also is vanity. This is another thing I found out that's doesn't make any sense. It's vanity. And what he's talking about here is kind of difficult. There's probably 50 different interpretations by commentators for these verses, but I kind of whittled it down to two possibilities. Who gets the big burial? Who gets a nice burial? A king does, rich people do. But it says, I saw the wicked buried, who had come and gone from the place of holiness. They had lived their lives that, everybody starts off holy, but they have left that. I saw even those people that were wicked, they had come and gone from the place of holiness, but yet they were buried. They had a burial. And then the next part, and they were forgotten in the city where they had so done. That can be translated, who had done well. I'm not going to try to get it, I'm not going to tell you the Hebrew words or any of that stuff, but I prefer that myself, where he's comparing the wicked to the ones that are just living life like they should. The wicked get the nice burial, the other ones are forgotten. And this is vanity. It should be the other way around. The righteous people should get the good burial, and the wicked people should be forgotten. That's one of the ideas. And the other one is that number one definition is that the wicked come and go and are forgotten. Either one is true. The wicked, they start off holy, but they turn wicked, and then when they die, nobody remembers for very long after them. The other possibility is that he's talking about wicked as opposed to righteous people. The wicked are remembered, get a burial, but the other ones are just forgotten. They don't stand out in the crowd, I guess you might say. So he says this also is vanity. Depressing sounds like, but he's trying to find out the answers, and he's finding out I can't find out the answers. This doesn't make sense. Why does it happen that way? It doesn't make sense to me. That's not how it should be. Verse 11, he says, but because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. And this is one that we quote quite often. And how quickly is justice done today? Trials stretch on out for years and years and years. Is that a deterrent to anybody? If I do this, am I going to have to pay for it? Yeah, maybe 15 years from now, or maybe 10 years from now. I'll worry about that then. It's not a deterrent. Because it's not executed speedily, the heart of sons of men are fully set in them to do evil. You're not going to change if you don't mete out the punishment in a timely fashion. It won't be a deterrent. We can learn something about that with our kids. You know, when as kids are growing up, that's one thing that young parents need to learn. They have to know this is not good. And you can't say, remember 2 weeks ago when you pitched a fit? Well, now I'm putting you in a timeout. Yeah, that doesn't work.
I know recently there was some kind of case where this person had been arrested 30 or 40 times.
Yeah.
And it takes some bad thing for him to really take care of him.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point where even that doesn't, you kill somebody, you commit murder. Yeah, you commit murder, and then the judge lets them off because of, well, you were deprived as a child or something like that. Well, that's not going to stop crime from happening. Everybody will continue to do evil unless they're punished in a timely fashion. We need to pray for our leaders of our country, for the judges and those that they will get that in their head, because the only way evil is going to stop in this world is if people are punished for doing it, and punished speedily for doing it. Now, we'll go, got a couple minutes. Though a sinner does evil 100 times and his days are prolonged, yet I surely know that it will be well with those who fear God, who fear before him. Now, Solomon is switching from observation to conviction. He says the sinner does evil 100 times, that's an observation. Yet, now here's his conviction is, I know for sure that it'll be well with those who fear God, who fear before him. So, what I know, I don't understand how all this stuff is happening or why all this stuff's happening. What I do know, though, is that it will be well if you serve God. It will be well if you fear before him. That's the big conclusion of the whole book, as we'll see at the end. But whatever else I don't understand, all the stuff I've been seeking out to find by wisdom, I see people sinning hundreds of times, and yet they live a long time. Why is that? Why doesn't God just shorten their life if they're going to sin like that? And I've had that question myself. I'm reading through Kings and Chronicles now, and I just read Josiah. He was the best king that Judah ever had, yet I think he reigned for 21 years. But the king just before him, Manasseh, who was horrible, he reigned for, I forget the exact number, but like 50 years, more than twice as long as Josiah did. So you think, why is that? Why did it work out that way? We don't understand that. But what I do know is that things will go well for those who serve God. Did things go well for Josiah? Yes, they did. He was very blessed and things went well all of his life. And so that's something that's a big piece of wisdom right there, something that we really need to have in our head. If you fear God, if you love God, things will go well for you. Not saying that everything is well, but overall, it'll be well for you. Time and chance happen to all of us. We've already seen that. But overall, things will go well for those who fear God. But it will not be well with the wicked. The end result, I mean, the wicked may have good things happening, but in the end, what happens with the wicked? They find they have to meet God one day. And
confusing, because he says, though a sinner does it 100 times, his days are prolonged. And yet, I know you should follow God, right? But it will not be well with the wicked, nor will he prolong his days. Seems like I'm using state.
yeah, well, there's the first one. It doesn't say God is prolonging the days. They live a long time. God doesn't always intervene with a person. He doesn't just doesn't kill somebody that's sinning 100 times. He can live a long time. But down here in verse 13, he's talking about, will God prolong the life of a wicked man? Will he intervene to make him live longer? No, he's not going to do that. So that's what he's talking about there. And his days are like a shadow because he does not fear before God. What does the shadow do? It goes away. It gets longer and longer and longer as the sun's getting ready to set, and then it goes away. And when the sun sets, and so that's what the days of the wicked man are. Is just like a shadow. It's here for a while, but then it's gone, and it's because he doesn't fear God that that his days are like a shadow. There's no real substance, a mere shadow of real life. That's the kind of life the wicked person doesn't have real substance to his life. It's like a shadow. It's not the real thing. It's just there lying on the ground, and it goes away. And so that's what he's talking about. The wicked, it may seem like that they're blessed and good things happening, but there isn't any substance to it. You can't really enjoy life if you're at odds with God. Even though you have a lot of stuff, you're not really
You're always hiding in the shadows.
right.
You're always worried about somebody else doing evil to you, and that they're going to catch you, and
Yeah.
you're going to have to pay for it.
Right. Yeah. So that's exactly what he's talking about there. All right. Well, our time is passed up, so we're going to go start with verse 14 of Ecclesiastes 8 next week. Thank you guys for your comments and your questions, and we'll be back together.